Here today with Dr. Donna Wilburn. She is coach and therapist here in Las Vegas, and we're going to talk today about the stressors involved with litigation.
I'm Dr. Donna Wilburn. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in Las Vegas, Nevada. I've been practicing for over 25 years now. I work with adults, children, families, couples, whether it be personal matters, relationship matters, or helping you handle really stressful litigation cases. I can help.
So the stress is almost just like a waste of energy.
It is.
Yeah.
But the perception is, I need to be like this. I need to be
Mhm.
like this. Like, I need to work hard. I need to blah. And that mentality, it's like a fear based mentality.
Mhm.
And it makes you believe that you have to be like this or you're going to be like homeless on the street or something.
What makes us feel like we need to be like that, though? The stress. Do we see, like, okay, maybe we've gotten some success because I have been stressed, because I have been on top of everything?
It's the mindset is your upbringing a lot. If you saw your parents be like, oh God, we don't have enough money and we're all stressed
Mhm.
out and how am I going to make the bills? So if you see like a fear related to making money, if you perceive that as you're growing up, like I got to make money or I can't be a happy person, like I got to make money or everything's going to go bad. If you grow up with that, that's going to be in there. Our society is built on the mindset of do more, do more. You got to be doing, it's like a productivity addiction almost. You got to like be
Mhm.
doing something all the time. Our
Mhm.
society, capitalism kind of fosters that. So it's society, it's environmental. And if there's any predisposition to anxiety genetically, you fall right into that mindset.
So, how do you get out of that mindset with staying on top of everything? It is a matter of prioritizing the most important tasks, and maybe the other tasks, just
It's
setting those
not that.
aside.
It's your brain function. Your brain
Mm.
functions really well when it's in a calm state. Okay? When it's in a calm state, it prioritizes well. It is able to focus and get things done. It is able to manage what needs to be done or organize things that need to be done in a certain way. It works really well.
Mhm.
So if you
Mm.
can calm your brain, it's like a computer that's not overheating. Like when it's functional and working well, you do things, it's automatic. Like you automatically can do things well when your brain and your nervous system is functioning well. When you're in high stress mode, your priority
Mhm.
system isn't working so well. You're distracted. You're going to have tough time focusing. You're going to have tough time organizing your thoughts. You're going to be emotional about things. So decision making is affected by emotion. Like it's going to make you less functional, less efficient when you're in that stressed out state. So really it's not, I don't have to tell people how to organize their emails or how to, whatever, what tools. Yeah, there are
Mhm.
some things that help you be organized, like a visual calendar or a, list of things to do today. They help. But
Mhm.
really, it's your nervous system that determines how functional you are.
And so, if it's a matter of mindset, is that why addiction is just kind of a good outlet for it, right? Whether or not it's drugs or alcohol or sex, pornography, because when people get involved with that, it's kind of almost puts them in a different mindset, a more relaxed mindset
It does.
initially. Is
It's
that what it
numbing.
is?
It's numbing. So
Mm-hmm.
when you're in a high stress state, okay, or there's a lot of negative thoughts in your head and it's hard to be happy and content and grateful, that's unpleasant to feel. That's an unpleasant state. And so a substance or a behavior, like pornography is a behavioral addiction, or a substance, right away numbs your brain and gets you feeling something other than that crappy feeling, that negative feeling. So the brain, you think you run the show, you don't run the show, your brain runs the show. And your brain goes, I need relief from this crappy feeling. Give me something that works really fast. And if you find it and you may accidentally come across it, like nobody goes and goes, their logic goes, okay, what can I do that numbs me really fast? Oh, let me go try alcohol. That's not how it works. It's like it just comes across your path. It just somehow appears in front
uh,
of you. And then you try it. And then your brain goes, oh, that was nice. Thank you very much. And let's do this again. And now I'm
Mm.
going to need more because now I have a tolerance to it. So now I need more. Same with behavioral addictions. It's new for only a certain amount of time. And then you need more because now
Mm.
you got used to that level. Now you need to move up a level and you need to have more or more intense. And then you get used to that. And then you have to move up a level and get more and more intense. So addiction is, it starts off as this relieved some stress for me. That's nice. It starts off like that. And then if you don't find any other tool to manage your stress, your brain's like, well, that's all I got. So now I need it every day because you're not giving me anything else to manage my stress. So I am going to make you choose things that relieve this stress right away. And it's not a conscious thing. Addiction is not, oh, this is so fun. Let me go be an addict. That's not a
Mm.
conscious process. It's an unconscious process. It's an automatic process that you're not even aware that you're doing until you're way into it and stuck in it and go like, I can't get out of this.
But we can kind of take a step back and see, like, okay, we may be susceptible to that if we're dealing with high stress, or maybe, like, for example, I broke my knee in 2021 and the doctors wanted to give me basically heroin, right? They call it
Right,
by any
right.
other kind of
Morphine or
different name,
pain
right?
relievers, right.
Yeah, but it was heroin, and so I didn't want to take it because I was so concerned, like, okay, this could be something that I could fall into,
Right.
and so staying away from that. And I was in so much pain. The doctor told me, okay, like, here, like, at least take it once every other day, and then if you have a big decision to make, then make sure that you're not taking it that day or whatnot. So is it a matter of saying, okay, if I'm dealing with this stress and I know that the addiction's out there, how do we make sure to stay away from that, to make sure that we have healthy habits that bring down the stress in our brain, help us, I guess, manage our brain? Or
Right.
how
Like
would you say
manage
that?
your stress.
Yeah.
So ideally, we'd be teaching our children stress management. I have kids, I work with kids and adults, and I encourage parents to start teaching stress management at like 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Take a deep breath,
Mm-hmm.
relax, think about something, go to your room or place to help yourself calm down. There's so many things. Listen to music, put an ice pack on your chest, take a few deep breaths, walk around, like teaching your child that there are ways to feel better that don't involve candy, TV, addictive type things, right? So, talking about stress, teaching stress early, I'd say ideally that would be your best bet is teaching stress management early. Okay. With, if I'm working with an adult, even in this day and age, you think everybody knows what addiction is or, you know, what are addictive things, and they don't. And you think people know what stress is, and I can't tell you how many people don't realize how stressed out they are. They have no idea. They're not in tune with themselves. So being able to have an awareness of your own stress level and realize that I'm really stressed right now. This is not a good time to take a substance or participate in certain behavior. This is not a good time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When you're stressed out is not. So this is what my dad says to me. He said to me when I was like 10 years old, he goes, never use alcohol for a reason. Don't say, oh, I'm really stressed out, I could use a drink. That's a clue right there that you're using a substance as a tool to manage your stress. And that's a danger zone. Recreational stuff is different than using something as a tool. Recreational, sometimes, once in a while, because you're having fun, like whatever, it's enjoyable activity, is different than I need this to manage my emotions. That's where dependency can kick in.
And can there be a good dependency? Like, for me, the way that I've been able to manage my stress throughout my practice is riding my bike,
Mm-hmm.
where it would get to the point where my wife would and I would maybe have some friction, and she would just turn to me, she's like, just go ride your bike. Right, get out
Right.
of the house,
You're
go
grumpy.
relax.
Go ride your
Yes.
bike.
Yeah. And so could there be those positive addictions or positive? I'm not sure if that would be considered addiction. I mean, maybe for me and my pocketbook, it's a bit of an addiction, right?
It is something to think about because there are people who can get addicted to activities like that, like working out or, you know, even yoga and healthy things you'd think They can
Mm,
get addicted to them if that's the only thing you're using, okay? And you're not working on prevention at all, preventing the stress.
mm.
So all you're doing is letting yourself get really stressed out and then using something to calm that stress. Great that you're using something that is actually kind of healthy. That's nice. But what about the prevention part, as in not letting yourself get that stressed out in the first place?
Kind of the
That's a
root.
whole half of
Yeah.
the being a healthy person, is being aware of that and not letting yourself even get there.
So if that root cause is work, right? If the root cause of the stress is work, how do you get rid of that then?
Then you need to look at that, because it's
Yeah.
not work. Work is not
Mhm.
a stressor. How you think about work is a stressor. How you manage work is a stressor. If you have bad
Mm,
boundaries with work, then it's a stressor. If you have difficulty with time management, it's a stressor. Work in itself is not a stressor. It's just a thing. It's just like a tree, right? It's not a
mhm.
stressor. But if you don't manage it, and let's say it's a weed in your garden, like, the weed is not a stressor, it's just a weed. But if you don't manage it and let it take over your garden, then it's going to stress you out. So it's not the work, it's how you think about it and how you manage it.
So a little bit about those boundaries, right? Like at least with my firm and those that I work with, I really try to let them know like, hey, like this is secondary. Like your home life, your family is more important than work. But for myself, I take what I do very personal. And I do it for a reason because I deal with other people's drama. I deal with
Mm-hmm.
their life and their,
Mm-hmm.
they come to me for that reason. And so when the insurance company attacks them, I feel like they're attacking me and I've got to protect them. And so is is that an unhealthy boundary to have, right? To not have that boundary to where literally I'm taking my clients' lives home with me.
And that's something to think about, because I'm a
Hmm.
therapist, right? So I
Yeah.
work with people and I have to care about their feelings and all that. And I understand and I'm glad that you care about your client and you're not just, a robot being like, it's a dollar amount to me. Like,
Hmm.
that makes you a high quality attorney. So that factor is really important. You don't want to get rid of that factor. You want to care about your clients. But a therapist once told me when I was just a newbie intern, she goes, "You need to learn how to care, not carry. Care, not carry." Okay. And so caring is compassion and, empathy and wanting to do the best for them. Carrying is taking more responsibility than they're taking. Carrying is letting it affect other areas of your life. That's carrying. You're putting it on your shoulders the whole day, 24/7, right? So, caring, I understand and I'm glad that you do. And that's really important that you do. Carrying is something to look at. So this is where boundaries come in. And I have to work with people who are, suicidal or in really abusive relationships, and sometimes it gets heavy because I care, and I'm like, I I say it's really hard for me to know that you're experiencing this, or to know that this is what you're feeling. Like, I care about you, but it is their choice and it is their life and it is their path, and I have to let people be themselves and have autonomy and make their choices. I cannot care about their life more than they do. I cannot care about their situation more than they do. So if you have a client who, let's say, has a case going on, and I have to tell you, I've worked with people in injury cases who, therapy is part of their healing process and healing from the accident. So therapy is part of the something that needs to be reimbursed kind of thing. And it's so freaking stressful. Like, that court litigation, whatever process, is so stressful for the client. So I'm sure you don't want to be, contributing and making it worse for them. And so, knowing that if they're having a difficult emotional time, you can't put that on your shoulder. You say, go get a therapist. You need to have someone to help you emotionally. That's not my job. This is my job. You're not their therapist. So maybe that's a boundary, is like, am I acting more like their therapist or their
Mm-hmm.
attorney? Because if I'm
Mm-hmm.
going into the therapist role, maybe this person needs an actual therapist. Maybe I can take that off my plate and put that on someone else's plate. And that's a boundary to think about. Like on my end, if I'm more their friend than their therapist, I'm crossing a boundary. I'm like, I can't care like a friend. I'm their therapist.
Yeah, and that litigation process, the whole court process is very stressful. And I have a lot of clients that, the insurance company is doing them wrong. They realize it, like, okay, let's file a lawsuit, let's go that litigation route, and then they get involved in it. And even though they're what we would consider the victim, right? I mean, they're the one, they're not at fault for it. They were put into a position in their life unnaturally by someone else's fault. All of a sudden, the insurance companies and the courts turn it around, and then they become my clients, then become the bad guy. And that's the way the
Oh.
courts and the insurance companies see them. They get attacked and they get attacked, and then they
Mm-hmm.
just get so worn down with the system where, if I have a client that's able to stay strong and weather the storm, there's a great result for them at the end. But for some of them, they just can't deal with it, with the stress and with that knowledge that they're being turned into the bad guy.
Yeah.
And so it seems like therapy at that point could be a good position for them, a good outlet for them to help them deal with that stressor, the new stressor that's
I
in
I
their
I
life.
can't imagine going through that situation without a therapist. I've seen how stressed out, like when I have folks come in, it goes from being made to look like they're the bad guy, being made to look like they're trying to take advantage or screw the insurance company, to my lawyer is the bad guy
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't understand me. Okay. So it's affected, because these things last years for people. I had one recently, it was a minimum of 2 years she was in this situation. And she had to come in because there were times, like sometimes it was because she's the bad guy, sometimes because she was like afraid her attorney didn't have her best interest at heart or something. But these are people in an emotional state. They're in a high emotional state. They're in a high stress state. So that's going to affect their thinking. That's going to affect how they perceive things. That's going to affect the decisions, what they're willing to negotiate or not negotiate. So I can't even imagine going through a process like this without someone to help calm the emotional state and keep someone in a rational
Mm-hmm.
place, because you're trying to negotiate decisions and help them make decisions for themselves. They're not even thinking clearly. I don't even know how that even
Mm-hmm.
happens. And then you'll try to give them advice or something, and where they're at, like, they're going to turn on you. And so I can't even imagine going through a process like this without a therapist. And I know there can be reimbursement for that. Like, it's pretty expected that these folks are going to need some therapeutic help because of what they went through and because of the court process, not just
Yeah.
because of the accident. The court process is part of the accident.
They're only there because of someone else's
Yeah.
fault. And one of the biggest stressors that the clients deal with is what we call a deposition. And
Okay.
during the deposition, the attorney for the insurance company starts asking them all kinds of questions and turning the questions kind of suspect, where whatever the client's going to say, it's going to make it sound like the clients did something wrong,
Right.
even though they never did anything wrong, right? You did something wrong by going to the doctor. You did something wrong by not going to work. You did something wrong by going to see a therapist, right? Everything that they do along the step, the insurance company, the attorneys are trying to say you did the wrong thing. And this deposition, where the client's just left to answer the questions, like really not given a platform to
Right.
advocate for themselves. And I tell them that's not the space to do it. But that is the most difficult thing for them to do, I think, in the litigation process, because they're not able to control the narrative. And they've just got
I've
to.
I've had to prep clients for depositions, and there are tools and strategies that can help them be calmer during a deposition.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're allowed to step out of the room if they have to, but there are certain, like, breathing strategies. There's something called EMDR, which helps um, disconnect the emotional reaction from the event so that when they're talking about what they need to talk about, they're not as emotionally intense from the at the deposition itself. I have these things, they're called, I call them buzzers. They're EMDR buzzers, and you hold them in your hand and it calms your nervous system while you're talking. They're just little buzz 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 tools. And so when a client goes in, like, it's so many times like, you know
Mm-hmm.
what you're going into, let's rehearse, let's calm our body. I don't know what questions are going to be asked, but I know your nervous system is going to escalate, so we'll role play. If you feel yourself get stressed out, what are you going to do? Let's do that right now. If you feel anxious about it, let's do some EMDR about it right now so that you go in less anxious. What are the tools that you have? Like grounding strategies. It helps to go in. It's like going into war with armor versus going into war without any kind of
Mm-hmm.
armor or weapon or anything.
Hmm.
It's a different experience when they go in prepared and they have tools. And it seems to help based on what they tell me.
The breathing techniques,
It
the
wasn't perfect, but it
yeah,
seems to help a little.
and they're never perfect in the EMDR. Um, a lot of things what I generally tell I have a list of things that I go through, but one of them is my job is to make you feel comfortable being uncomfortable.
Okay.
Because when I meet with them, I kind of cross-examine them, right? Someone that they've known for a year and a half, 2 years. And so they know that I'm coming from a good place when I'm questioning them on certain things. And I know what the answers are, but I start asking those questions, prepping them, doing that role playing. But that, I want you to feel comfortable being uncomfortable. Now you're making me kind of second guess whether or not that is
It's the
the right
same. It's the
concept.
same principle.
Yeah.
It's the same principle.
Mm.
What I'm saying is the same. What you're saying. I want you to feel comfortable being uncomfortable. You're going into an uncomfortable situation. Let's use things to be as comfortable as possible. There's nothing going to make that situation comfortable. There's nothing going to
Mm.
make it enjoyable for you. You're going into a difficult situation. And like you're saying, you're going into an uncomfortable situation. Your job is to help them be as comfortable as possible while in there, and my
Mm.
job is too. So it's the same principle.
Yeah. And I always preface the clients, look, I give them a bunch of rules, but the number one rule, and I always start with this, is you've got to tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And when I've dealt with clients who have had a history of emotional issues, mental issues, psychiatric issues in the past, it's almost like they forget what the truth is when they're in there.
Mm.
And I can't, I don't know where it comes from. I don't know what they're trying to do. It could be something as simple as they had been to the doctor 2 weeks ago and they're telling them that the defense attorney, they saying, I haven't been to the doctor for 3 months.
Mm.
And it's just like they forget. I mean, what is that? Is it just, is that like the
It's
stress?
anxiety based, yeah.
Yeah.
So lying, or they call it malingering, or
Yeah.
not quite telling the truth, is an anxiety based behavior. Okay. And you don't know their whole life story, their whole context. They may have been that little kid who, whose parents got really mad at them when they make mistakes. And so, tell me what you did. And they're like, I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And so they go right into this, I'm a 5-year-old scared of getting in trouble situation. And their brain is just like, come up with a story. Oh my gosh. So it's an anxiety based behavior. And they say it's like so quick. It happens so fast that your brain goes, tell a story versus tell the truth. Whatever sounds like something that would make them less mad or would make you look good. Okay. It's automatic subconscious. So when someone is doing that, and I'm, as a therapist, like I work with couples and everybody too, and they're like, I hate lying. I can't believe it. And my kid lied to me. And I'm like, you can't look at it lying like that. You have to look at lying as a red flag. They're anxious. And so that would be a good time to pause. Like if you hear something that is like, that was not quite accurate, then you're like, we need a break. And you're like, go step out, take a few deep breaths, like because their anxiety level is so high, it's affecting what's coming out of their mouth. And so that in my end, it's like, we're anxious. We need something to calm that down as soon as I hear something like that. So I don't get, people can't lie, it's terrible. I just use it as a barometer, like how anxious are they? Now they're so anxious they can't even feel comfortable being honest.
So dealing with that. So it sounds like there's, and correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Mhm.
But just my understanding is, so there's certain stressors that come on, and is it a matter of then, okay, if my client's gets fearful during the deposition because of the way the questions are being asked, right? And so their kind of method to deal with that stress or to deal with that fear that they have is to then try to reduce that type of tension that may be in the room by telling a story that
And
maybe isn't necessarily 100% true, but just
that's true,
yeah.
but on a subconscious level, not on a conscious
Mm-hmm.
level. They're not going, oh, tell something different. Like, I'm nervous right now. It's subconscious and super fast. Think of it almost like a PTSD reaction to maybe their childhood trauma. So they're having a PTSD reaction, an automatic nervous system flare up, anxiety, automatic brain starts to tell stories that will reduce their stress or make it so they don't get in as much trouble as whatever that is. And you don't know, like, you don't know their whole histories. You don't know their life story. So it could be a tone that someone is using to ask questions. It could be how the question was phrased that triggered that PTSD reaction of, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. I look like I'm in trouble, and uh-oh, and start telling stories. It's not conscious, though. I want it to be really clear. It's not an on purpose, what should I do right now? Let me lie. That's not what's happening. And so you can't even address it. They don't even know what's happening. It's recognize it from the outside is easier than recognizing it from the inside. And you go, oh, they're too anxious right now. We got to do something to calm that nervous system before this goes further.
And like you talk about, like taking a break, getting out of the room and getting into a different environment.
Even a drink of water, a quick little 2-minute walk. There's many strategies. There's a strategy called tapping that helps calm the nervous system right away. And this is what their therapist would be teaching them to do when you're feeling anxious like that, or even helping them be aware that they're starting to get anxious. Sometimes this client's not even aware that their anxiety is rising until it's really high and stuff is coming out of their mouth. And you're like, what are you even doing? They didn't recognize. In therapy, we have to teach them to recognize when your anxiety is starting and to use a strategy that can calm your anxiety before it gets that high.
That those EMDR, is that tapping is the EMDRs?
Tapping is not EMDR. EMDR is eye movement or bilateral stimulation. Tapping is like pressure points on your body that calm your nervous system, and you just tap on them. It's use certain areas of your body. So it's a different tool, still to calm the nervous system. But we have lots of tools and lots of things work. You can even Google like how to calm your nervous system. There's so many things. But you need to use them before you get to that point, not after like crazy stuff is happening.
Now do it in the moment, right? Try to learn how to do
like,
to do the
now's
tapping
the
right
time.
there. Yeah. And one thing I like to do when I know that my client's going to be stressed, I know it's going to be very emotional, I try to ask the defense counsel, let's do it in my office, right? It's going to be in my office. The client's going to be a little bit more familiar with the area. If things do get stressful, they can step out and they can come into my own office, right? We can go in the conference room, do the deposition, and then
That's
if
a
there
good
needs to be a
idea.
break.
Give them the environment that they're already comfortable in. That's a strategy, and that's good. That would help.
And just trying to bring the peace to the situation, right? Because it is very contentious, and our litigation
maybe you can have like all these, like you have aromatherapy in here. You have like background high vibration music, like a little gong.
Coming, I can imagine
like
coming in and just smashing it.
You're like, I can't stand it.
Yeah.
No, a little massage happening. It'll be lovely.
Aromatherapy, right? In the room where they're doing the deposition, have some aromatherapy in there, right?
Anything calming, anything that calms you is your friend.
Yeah. And that does work, right? I mean, the breathing techniques are just amazing. I track my variable heart rate.
Okay, good.
And there was one day, and I remember it just starkly, where I was just breathing all day long, and my heart rate variability just shot through the roof, which was a good sign, right?
So you were taking deep breaths
all day long.
Oh, good for you. Yeah, good for you. That's one of those preventative things. So that's good for you.
That's a preventative
thing. Good job.
Yes, the breathing. And it's amazing, just something so simple that we don't even think about. Again, it's like
I
subconscious,
know,
like,
right? And it's
yeah,
free and it's
it's
handy and you
free.
don't even have to go anywhere. And it helps you immensely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. I just
Uh,
saw some research on breath and how when you do that, you're actually also activating your frontal cortex, which you're getting oxygen
mm,
to the area of your brain that you need to work more efficiently. So when you take those deep breaths, you're probably more efficient at work and less, overwhelmed or procrastinating or overthinking. So that's
mhm.
probably one of the best strategies I've seen.
So, and I probably need to repent of this, but one of the classes that the bar would make us take, right? One of the teachers, like, that was the whole thing. Like, we spent an hour talking about stress and breathing, and a lot of us kind of left, kind of like snickering under our breath,
Mm-hmm.
because it was just so contrary to what we generally deal with classes, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with the contention and the law, and now we go to some class that the bar wants us to go to, and they're talking about almost kind of new age, take a breath, take a step
Mm-hmm.
back and breathe. And but that is very important, because it goes back to what you're saying, that productivity,
Yes.
being there for our clients, being at the top of our game.
And that's the thing when it comes to you have a brain in your head and you're a human like everybody else. The brain in your head functions at its best when your nervous system is calm. They did an experiment with snipers and they, assessed their accuracy and efficiency with being a sniper. And they did at their regular state and then they had them do like a meditation and then assess them. And they were immensely better at being a sniper when they were calm. So the military is already aware of this, how efficient your brain works when you're calm. So as a person who you want to do the best job, you want to be at the top of your game, you want to be, the most efficient, the most functional out there, you can only do that if your brain is in a calm state. If your brain is in a stress state, you may think you're efficient or functional or doing really well, but you're like running in place, and maybe you'll get a little farther down the road, but your wheels are spinning, you're idling high. That's not functioning. That's not most efficient. It's just going to dig a hole. So as you're, learning and as society is maybe becoming more aware, because research is catching up to this new age way of thinking, we research is starting to go, huh? I think there's something to that. There might be.
Mm.
We're starting to show things that they're starting to show the actual brain. We're doing a lot of brain studies recently in the past, let's say, 10 years, with neuroscience and neuroimaging and MRI studies. Just really being able to boom, they are actually showing, you can see it on the MRI studies and the SPECT scans. You can see the brain and you can see it when it's calm and you can see it when it's stressing. Even concentrating is stressing, and you can see the actual lights turning off in the brain. There are areas turning off when you're stressing. So your brain is not functioning optimally. It's turning off the lights to maintain energy, to maintain efficiency when you're stressing it out. If you want to use all the lovely lights that you have going
Mm-hmm.
on in there, be in a calm state and they all stay on. And you can use all the areas of your brain, the frontal cortex areas that make you really good at what you do.
And that requires a lot of consistency, though, right? I mean, it's not
It
something you can
does.
just sit down and, like, okay, I've got to do, 3 hours of work, whatever, and I'm going to sit here and breathe for 3 hours. No, you've got to be working on that for days on end.
Because it's preventative and it is about consistency. So if you have a brain that's been stressed out with very little calm opportunities, those lights that turn off kind of forget how to turn back on. And so that's considered damage. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes months of consistency to teach your brain to keep the lights on. And so as you're, yeah, it'll help you in the moment. You'll function a bit better, but if you maintain consistency, the progressive uh, level of functioning, it's progressively higher and higher and higher and higher. After 6 months, the brain is showing change. Like on the scans, the brain itself is changing. You can see it after 6 months. After 1 year, it's almost like you have a new brain in your head.
Mm-hmm.
If you're consistent, you can reverse the damage if you're consistent. So there was another thing I just was reading about with meditation, and I have very high profile clients who are super, super, super successful and super, super, super stressed out. And they come in, and I had this one guy come in, and he's like, if you're going to tell me to meditate, I ain't going to do it. I'm like, even if it's super effective and can help you sleep better and function better and be a better person to be around, like your family will enjoy you better. And he's like, I ain't going to do it. I ain't gonna, no. So after I had to start small, I'm like, can we just start with taking a deep breath? Can we just do that once a day? And so after starting that and noticing like, oh, this is kind of helping me out. I'm like, well, if you take some deep breaths for 10 minutes while imagining you're on a beach, that might help even more. And that's called meditation. And they're like, I don't know. But after a while, now I have to tell you, I have somehow I end up with a lot of male clients. So I have this other male who was like running this huge company, like huge, super high profile, super overworked. His wife was like, I can't stand it. He's working like all the time. It's been, I'd say 6 years now we've been working together. He now does yoga every day and meditates every single day and is amazed that he did not do this before. And he's the happiest, high functioning, super successful person ever. Mm. And I'm like, if you can do it, I know other super successful people can do this. Because somehow he did it. I have to fight people to do this. Because they're like, oh, I can't do my job. I won't be as good. I won't be as successful if I slow down and relax. I'm like, oh, that dang belief system of yours. I have a guy, but I can't share it. I'm like, I have a guy who did it, and it worked. And he's just as successful, if not more, than he used to be.
Because you feel like with the stress, you're almost like living on the edge.
Yeah.
And then it forces you to make a decision quickly, which we like to do, right? We like to make a decision quickly so we can move on. And being stressed, being on a time crunch, living on that edge kind of forces you to make those decisions. Whereas you think, okay, if I am not that stressed, maybe I'm going to be more relaxed and not make decisions quickly. Maybe things aren't going to move as rapidly and I'm not going to be as successful.
That is a belief, or they feel, and I think part of why people get to such high levels of success, sometimes their motivator is based in trauma, like they may have had a really difficult childhood, or they, are trying to prove something or get approval or whatever. The motivator to get to that level got them to that level. Doesn't have to be the motivator to stay at that level. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it got you there. That fear-based, oh my gosh, mentality got you to where you're at, and good. I'm glad you used it. But you're there now. You don't have to maintain it. You don't have to keep that level of fear. You can now maintain. And it doesn't have to be a fear-based life. It doesn't have to be a stress-based life. But overcoming that, I have to somehow help them overcome that fear that got them there. And it's strong, that belief. I need to be this way. I need to be this way. I can't be successful unless I'm this way. And there's so many examples. There's a book out there by Michael Singer. Oh, dang, I forget what it's called. But it's all about meditation and the effect, and he's a super successful guy, and the effect on functioning and getting you to your optimal game. They use it in sports too. Even the athletes out there. Who's that guy that was married to a supermodel? He was a football player, Tom something.
Tom Brady. Yeah.
And he's like, Mister, I meditate every day, and I eat really healthy, and I like do deep breathing, and I do yoga, and I do ice baths. Like, He's like
Uh,
super top performance athlete and he's meditating. So I think there's something to it.
it's not a quick fix.
It's
It's
not
not
a
a quick
quick
fix, but it's
fix.
something that's
But you'll
the
feel the
payoff is
effect
huge.
quickly.
Yeah.
You'll feel it right
Mm-hmm.
after. It does have a
Mm-hmm.
quick benefit. Maybe not long term lasting after the first time, but you will feel
Mm-hmm.
it.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, and
if only.
if only.
If only we can get these people on this plan. Makes you a better
Yeah.
parent. They say the best gift you can
Mm-hmm.
give your kids is your emotional regulation.
Hmm.
That you can be emotionally regulated.
Yeah, because with kids, I mean, everything would be perfect, and the next thing you know, you turn your head, and then everything is just a disaster.
I know how to handle that calmly.
Yeah.
Like we need to be calm.
Yeah. Nothing you never expect
Breathe.
before.
Take a deep
Yes.
breath.
Take a step back, right?
Yeah, before
Yeah.
you handle it, take a breath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And with litigation, I think that's the same thing with my clients, right? As I always try to tell them, because it becomes emotional, and litigating is not a matter of making an emotional decision, because you're never going to make a good
Right.
decision if it's emotional. It's got to be a business decision.
Right.
Eventually it comes down to be a business decision. And so how do you take a step back and do that? And it comes back to having a clear mind,
Yeah.
having good perspective.
Yep. I think that it really is the only way to
Mm-hmm.
make a healthy decision or a decision with clarity. And I have folks coming in who are trying to make big decisions and I'm like, you can't make it in that state of mind. You need clarity, and clarity comes with calm. So in order to even make this decision, your brain has to be in a calm state. So even you, if you're trying to make a decision, if they're in a emotional state, you're like, I am not even gonna listen to your decision when you're in this state because I don't think you have clarity.
Yeah.
So get calm and then we'll talk again. Like try again.
Yeah, take a step back. So thank you for so much for coming in. I really
You're
appreciate having
welcome.
met you and got the chance to talk to you. And yeah, you're gonna have to definitely come back again.
Oh, I love it.
So
You know, I
yeah,
can sit here talking all day about this. I
yeah.
love the brain and mental health, and I'll do all I can. I say I will talk to anyone at any time about mental health, trying to break the stigma,
Hmm.
spread the word, like get people on board with working on it.
Yeah, because the next question I have is like with regards to clients who have brain injuries,
Yeah,
right? And then dealing with that, because
yeah.
it's they don't recognize it. It's almost like they
I
don't
know.
recognize what's going on.
And for family around them, especially like there's different kind of brain injuries and you get even the older folk with dementia and stuff like they look the same. They look like the
Hmm.
person, but they really aren't quite the person that you knew, and you have to adjust to the new version of them. And that is, there's a grieving process to it because you have to say goodbye to the old version of them and meet the new version of them. And it happens in different scenarios in different ways. It's not just dementia or brain injury, it could be, for children or young people transitioning or changing gender or
Hmm.
wherever they're at, like this person you knew might not be the person you now have to get to know. And and there's a process to that, not just for them, who they have to learn about their new identity and who am I now and accept who they are now, but for the people around them that go like, what just happened to the person I used to know is never coming back. And now I have to grieve that, but I also have to get to know this new person and love them. And it's complicated for everybody, not just the person who has the injury.
Yeah. Just another question. So so I saw on your website you say it like a coach. So you're
Mm-hmm.
a coach or a therapist. Do
Mm-hmm.
some of your clients like calling you a coach instead of a therapist?
Yeah.
It's a different.
Yes, they do, and I don't
Yes.
really care.
Yeah.
So, like, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
I do coaching to
Uh,
me is less deep work, so it's
mhm.
less um, like childhood trauma, that kind of thing. I think coaching is more solution focused in the now and going forward.
You're not gonna make me cry during a coaching session, but during a
Well,
therapy session,
just
yes.
I kind of consider it a little
Yeah.
badge of honor that I can make anybody cry, but
Mhm.
like try not to, but they do.
Yeah.
It's just a thing that happens.
I mean, you can read people really well.
I try.
Yeah.
I try to turn it off
Mhm.
too. I don't want to be a therapist all the time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming in.
It was a pleasure.
So we'll do a little bit.